Hi everyone. My name's Tim Freno. I'm a regenerative designer, and I'm helping with the development of the ASP through the ASP Evolution process. Sorry, my chair's very squeaky, isn't it? I hope you can't hear that on camera. Yeah, so the survey results that you've been hearing about are going to feed into the ASP Evolution process, and I just wanted to say a few words about that. Sorry, I can't join you live today. I'm off to the beach with my youngest, taking out the final days of summer. So I specialize in speculative design, collective imagination, and redistributive design, and it's that we're going to lean into through the development of ASP through the evolution process. So redistributive design isn't just about redistributing knowledge, power, and resources through organizations and supply chains. It's also about redistributing the benefits of economic activity more equitably across stakeholders, because that's one of the main ways that we can attend to this moment. Yeah. So it's undoubtedly the case that this moment demands change. You know, the Club of Rome's predictions in Limits to Growth, published 50 years ago, proved remarkably accurate. You know, we are reaching the limits to growth. We've crashed past 7 and 9 planetary boundaries because of our focus on growth-driven extractive capitalism. You know, that's what's created this moment that we're in right now. And us collectively, ASP members, we've been in the business of change for the past 20 years and beyond. But, you know, we've come together through ASP for the past 20 years. I've only been a member for probably the past 2 or 3 years, but I love being part of this community of change makers. And as the survey shows, we're all abundant with agency. You know, we're working with and for businesses and institutions which have got tremendous influence. You know, we can create change in the world. And the reason I do this work in this context, because I work a lot with businesses and institutions, is that, you know, businesses, they are our greatest form of collaboration. They have got great power. They ushered in a new geological epoch, the Anthropocene. You know, that came about because of the power of businesses. But as we all know, great power needs to be used with great responsibility. And and that's what really we haven't collectively embraced or effectively communicated through the organizations that we're working with. And the persistence of status quo or business as usual, as we'll call it in the change process, it's evident in, you know, ever increasing air and sea temperatures, spiraling resource consumption, energy use, emissions, extinctions, extreme weather. You don't need me to tell you all about this. And you know, it's a grim it's a grim litany to start off with. Um, but despite the fact that we've had predictions like the Club of Rome telling us that growth wasn't going to be the way forward, we've had things like, you know, UN Sustainable Development Goals, the Rio Agreement for such a long time, and yet still all the indicators are going in the wrong direction. And that points to the fact that we need to have greater attention to the how and the why, not just the what. You know, at the moment, really, we're just working in this veneer of sustainability, and we need to dig down much deeper into that. And it asks a whole series of questions like, how do we as professionals, as an association, how do we change our ways of working, our ways of collaborating with each other? How do we take the best of the old world, all that power that came from the old model, and reconcile it with the demands of the present, and more importantly, with the demands of the needs of the future? How do we discover what to let go, what to retain, and what to start afresh? And that's really the challenge that we've got in the ASP evolution process. And the way we're going to do that is through the Three Horizons framework. So I'll explain a little bit more about that. But really, to sum this up, the reason that we need change is because the sort of change that we know is possible isn't apparent to most people in the world, whether in public or in business or in governance. So I interviewed John Alexander, the author of the book Citizens, the other week. And his framing is that it's either stick or twist at the moment. And stick is stick with a broken system, or twist is twist into fascism. And we know that neither of those are going to take us into the future that we deserve, that we demand, that not just us, that the rest of the more than human world deserves. You know, we owe it to life on Earth. I think that's that's the big picture. But as yet, we haven't got effective, distributed, non-hierarchical ways of working together with impact. We haven't yet created impactful change in the way that scale, market dominance, and exploitation did in the old model, that they're still doing in that old model of business as usual, which is still persisting. And our opportunity here as one of the biggest and longest standing collectives of sustainability professionals is to be the change that we want to see. Because between us, we know how to create change in ourselves, with each other, in our relationships with the more than human world. And what we'll use the Three Horizons framework for within the evolution process is a unifying method to gather all of our knowledge, all of our understanding, our skills, our experience, our perspectives, and importantly, our practice. And so Three Horizons allows us to step into the process of change and examine how it works within a system. So we can step in and look at, well, what's in decline, what's emerging, what's pointing us in the direction of the future, and what's forming that bridge between the two. And these are what the Three Horizons that the name refers to: decline, emergence, and bridging innovation. And the framework examines each of these by posing a series of questions. And this is what we're going to do during the ASP evolution process. So each month we'll look at a different horizon and we'll gather collectively to examine that and investigate the questions, because we want to take a transparent and participatory approach that reveals how we together as a community can create real change out there, but also within our own way of organizing. Because, we're absolutely unique. If we can't do this, who can? So in a normal organization, when you were doing a Three Horizons process, the framework and the questions that you would ask would be quite simple. It'd be like, well, what's the answer, or what's our response? But here, because we've got such a wealth of professional insight, we've got an opportunity to ask a bigger question, not just what's the answer to the question, but how can we answer this question? How can we know the response? And I remember when I first met Gwyn, and he was telling me about how ASP works, and this idea about the ASP not just answering questions but asking better questions, and I love that. And through the ASP evolution process, we're not just going to find better questions, but we're also going to find better methods of responding to these questions from all of the practice that we each use in our work. And this is how we're going to bring all of our collective knowledge and experience and wisdom to bear on establishing a direction of travel for the future of ASP. Maybe even having to let go of the idea that we could even create solutions, or that there are answers, in the understanding that really moving in the right direction, moving towards a safe and just future is enough. And that's quite a radical notion, to let go of answers, solutions. But that's how we have to change our way of being in the world, not just our way of doing. We have to take the best of that impact and collaboration and find a way to effectively blend it with a new way of being. Because as an organization, as an association, we still have to retain a sense of form and function, the direction. We've got to chart a path through all of the divergence that all of our different perspectives and practices bring, and then bring it back to convergence. So we can't lose the identity of ASP. It needs to be a thing that is recognizable and has some agency in the world. Quinn's got a brilliant analogy for this, and he talks about the end of the process. We have to end up with a beautiful, juicy fruit salad rather than a bland smoothie, because that's what the world needs. You know, in all of its awe and its unknowable majesty, what we need is this diversity to be brought to bear on the issues of the moment, rather than just trying to ignore all of that and iron it all out. The world needs the collective talents of ASP now more than ever. And I know that sounds a bit, I know it sounds a bit cheerleadery, but it does. You know, I don't, I don't want to say it's on us, because it's on all of us. But we're the keepers of the children's fire. We're the people who understand. Sorry, we get it, yeah. And if we can't organize ourselves to respond effectively together, then who can? And that's what the ASP evolution process is all about. So we're going to do all that together, and it starts in September with the celebration of the past 20 years. And we've got Mike Ziegler, one of the founders, coming along. And really, we're going to start with that celebration because, you know, in a lot of my work, I use Joanna Macy's spiral of reconnection, because we have to start with gratitude. We have to be grateful for where we are, and where we are. It's a wonderful place with amazing people, and I'm going to try and do all that without too many, without without too much tears and too much emotion. But there will be some, because that's what the world needs. Right. Thanks everybody. Yeah, see you in September, and through the coming months, all the way into 2026. I can't believe we're talking about a new year already. But there we go. Right. Cool. See you in a couple of weeks.